My name is Louise Bean, and I'm the concept artist for Room Rodeo. Did I get everything?
Yes.
Okay, I was like, I think those were the two questions.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what a concept artist does and or what you did specifically for the film?
Yeah. So what a concept artist does is takes the ideas of lots of different people within the film and synthesizes them into a work of art that encapsulates some of the themes or the visual language of the film into a concise image or set of images. And I think the job is really important because it can be exciting to be working on a movie, but it can also be overwhelming. So to be able to see everything that you've been talking about in a single second and process all of the colors and all of the framing and stuff that you've been talking about for weeks on end can be an exciting way to push the film forward.
I think piggybacking off of that, would you be able to say, what are these works you generate as a concept artist? That would be things like your storyboards, etc.
Yeah, it really depends on the film, but for this film, I feel like what ended up being the most helpful was doing a lot of storyboarding because there's a lot of motion within the film. So seeing what our characters were going to look like in the frame, because our cinematographer, of course, had lots of fun framing ideas and stuff that were outside of maybe just the normal shot, reverse shot. So playing those out on the storyboards and just having little thumbnails of each concept for each shot. I think we'll both made it easier on set and easier during the pre-production process, but I'm hoping too that my work will continue to be important throughout even the post process too.
I'm curious to know, how long did it take you to storyboard a scene for Room Rodeo?
I generally for the thumbnails just do kind of a really sketchy style, so I do it pretty quickly. One of the challenging things for me is like coming from a production design background, I can get a room down in like a few seconds, like line, you sort of start to like just figure out how to draw rooms really quickly. Faces, whole other story. But generally it only takes me about like 15 minutes to a half an hour to do like a page of a scene usually.
Oh, yeah, your storyboards were very, very helpful, I know, for the camera department, for our director, and all of that. I believe I remember you had mentioned that you had previously only done storyboards for your own projects. Can you tell me how the process was maybe a little bit different in this case?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the challenge of doing it for somebody else this time because it was really enjoyable to sit with both the cinematographer and the director and talk about um, just like what made every scene important and like what about the visual language was going to continue to tell the story beyond what was in the script. And I think that was a conversation I was having with myself in my head when I was working on smaller projects and storyboarding those for myself. But having those conversations out loud is what always gets me excited about film again because it is important to me, and I know it's important to a lot of other filmmakers to make sure that the visuals of a story are telling the story as much as the words are.
That was a great answer. If you don't mind me being annoying, can I get you to repeat the top half of that by saying, because I think you said you responded with it instead of a full sentence. So, like, if you could say, working on someone else's storyboard for the first time was, do you get
Okay,
what I'm saying?
gotcha.
Okay.
Mhm. Working on someone else's storyboards for the first time was a challenge that I really embraced and enjoyed because you get to sit down and have these conversations with other people about how important the visual language that is in the in-betweens of the script manifests itself on screen to sort of further the story past what the characters are saying. Hopefully that was an
Okay.
approximation.
Chloe, are you happy with that? I am.
Yeah, me too. Are there any fun, interesting, quirky, compelling facts or pieces of information we should know about your process?
Oh, I feel like it's really not that interesting. It's me laying in my bed, especially with the collage making. It's me like sitting here with my computer or phone, and I'm like, I feel like it's not that cool. Yeah, I mean, nothing else other than the fact that I loved working on this project and getting more of a chance to do the conceptual side of design, because it is a very specific job and it's a job that's really important. And it was really my first time getting to dig my feet into creating art specifically for someone else's vision and to help somebody else out, but also get to add my own spice to it.
Nice.
And you definitely did, especially when it comes to how the storyboards were embedded within collages themselves. But I kind of want to go back to something you said earlier in terms of being able to like throw up a room, but people being like a bit more challenging. And I think when it comes to drawing, I think it's very fair to say that like many want to do it, but like few are chosen. So like, what are your top tips for getting started drawing people?
Okay, so I really am not an expert. I took my first drawing class ever this year. I'd never had formal drawing experience prior to this. So I would say that in order to sort of get at least to the level that I'm at right now, which I feel like is like a functional level of drawing, like drawing ideas, is really just I would sit somewhere and just draw what I was looking at, draw what I was seeing, or draw ideas of sets and things that I had in my head, costumes, things like that. Just continuing to get pen on paper or ink on paper or whatever your preferred method is, and just not expecting perfection to come out of the tip of the pen like the first few times that you do things. You're allowed to start over, you're allowed to do as many as you want, and you should just keep drawing until one day you sort of have a breakthrough where you start to find your style that captures the world in the way that you see it, because there is no right or wrong way to draw at the end of the day. It's all just sort of a manifestation of your perspective on the world.
This is so cool, and I don't want to keep it going too much longer, but I did want to ask if you had where you were drawing inspiration from specifically for this film, because it's like a Western film. So maybe you're drawing stuff from like pop culture, like pop Westerns, popular Westerns, but it's also a film about Black history, which is a little bit less known. And so I'm just wondering where you pulled your inspiration from.
Yeah, I was really inspired when we had the first meeting, at least that I sat in on. The screenwriter was talking about just like I think briefly mentioned something about having to like create an identity out of, like not necessarily knowing who your ancestors are, having to create an ancestral identity out of just picking and choosing things. And I felt like that pulled really well into the idea of using collages to represent the movie. And so, pulling things from the archetype of the Western exists within other media too. So, you know, um, liking Westerns also means you might like things like superhero movies, because you're looking for this empowerment in these characters, and a kind of like protective masculinity and stuff like that. So I thought, especially too, when I was doing like character collage, like, pulling in and showing that all of this media comes together to make up this person's idea of themselves, because that's how powerful media can be for us.